Emma hauled the pine log across the frost-covered ground, her breath forming pale clouds in the cold Montana air. The forest stood quiet around her, tall trees watching as she worked alone. Each log she placed was another step toward the life she wanted, simple, honest, and far from the noise she had left behind. The cabin was still only a rough frame, but in Emma's mind, it already felt like home. She had chosen this land because it offered silence, space, and the chance to start again with nothing but her own strength. Every morning, she arrived before sunrise, her boots crunching over fallen needles and frozen soil. Her hands were sore, her back ached, but she welcomed the pain. It reminded her she was alive and moving forward. The city had taken too much from her: dreams, trust, and time. Out here, she answered only to the sky above and the land beneath her feet. No one expected anything from her. No one judged her. That freedom made every struggle worth it. Across the open field stood a wide cattle ranch, its fences stretching toward the hills. Jack Turner leaned against the wooden rails, watching Emma from a distance. He told himself he was only checking the pasture, but his eyes always drifted back to her. Since his wife passed away 5 years earlier, the ranch had felt unbearably quiet. His days were filled with work, but his nights echoed with memories. He had raised his young son there too, until an accident took both of them from him. Since then, Jack had learned to live without hope. Seeing Emma stirred emotions he had buried deep. Her determination reminded him of his late wife, who had once believed anything could be built with patience and love. Jack noticed the way Emma struggled but never quit, even when the logs were too heavy or the wind cut sharply through her coat. She fell once, scraped her hands, and stood right back up. Jack admired that strength, though it frightened him too. Caring again meant risking pain. Emma felt eyes on her sometimes and glanced toward the ranch, spotting Jack's tall figure near the fence. She wondered who he was but never waved. Trust came slowly to her now. Still, there was something comforting about not being completely alone in such a vast place. The land felt less empty knowing someone else shared the horizon. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Emma set the last log for the day. She stepped back, smiling softly at her progress. Unseen by her, Jack removed his hat, standing in quiet respect. Two strangers, both carrying loss, stood on separate pieces of land, unknowingly at the edge of a shared future that neither was ready to name yet. The next afternoon, the sky hung low and gray, promising more cold before winter fully loosened its grip. Emma struggled with a thick roof beam, her boots sliding in the damp soil. She had managed everything so far on her own, but this piece tested her strength. She gritted her teeth, lifted, and nearly lost her balance. The beam slipped from her hands and hit the ground with a dull thud. Frustration burned in her chest. For a moment, she just stood there, breathing hard, wondering if she had pushed herself too far. Across the field, Jack had been watching again. He told himself it was coincidence, but when he saw the beam fall, his heart tightened. He remembered his wife struggling once with a fence post, refusing help until he stepped in anyway. The memory hurt, yet it also pushed him forward. Before he could overthink it, Jack swung into his saddle and rode toward Emma's cabin. The sound of hooves made Emma turn sharply. Her hand instinctively went to the hammer at her side. Living alone had taught her caution. Jack stopped a few steps away and raised his hands slightly, showing he meant no harm. His voice was calm and steady as he asked if she needed help. Emma studied his weathered face and kind eyes. After a brief pause, she nodded. They worked quietly at first, lifting the beam together and setting it into place. Jack's strength made the task easier, but he didn't rush her. When the beam was secure, Emma finally thanked him. That single word opened the door to conversation. Jack introduced himself and mentioned the ranch nearby. Emma shared her name and explained she was building the cabin herself. Jack admired her courage, and Emma admitted she had never built anything before. As they talked, the distance between them faded. Emma told him she had left the city after losing a job and a relationship that had drained her spirit. She wanted something real, something she could touch and claim as her own. Jack listened closely, understanding more than he said. When it was his turn, he spoke carefully, admitting he was a widower and that the ranch had been in his family for generations. He didn't mention his son yet. That pain was still too raw. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of pine and earth. Jack offered to help again the next day, but made it clear there was no obligation. Emma appreciated that. Before he left, Jack pointed out a few ways to brace the walls against heavy snow. His advice came from experience, not pride. When Jack rode back to his ranch, the familiar silence didn't feel as heavy. Emma watched him go, surprised by how much lighter she felt too. Two lives that had been moving separately had finally crossed paths, and neither of them realized how much that simple meeting would change everything that followed. Over the next few days, Jack found himself thinking about Emma more than he expected. The ranch still demanded his attention, feeding cattle, repairing fences, checking the barn, but his thoughts drifted toward the edge of the forest where the cabin was slowly rising. Each morning, he noticed small changes from afar. A new wall standing straighter, a window frame cut into the logs, smoke briefly curling from a small fire Emma used to keep warm. Without admitting it to himself, Jack began finding reasons to ride past her land. He brought extra nails one day, claiming he had too many. Another afternoon, he offered a set of tools she could borrow. Emma accepted with gratitude but never expectation. She appreciated that Jack didn't treat her like someone who needed saving. Instead, he treated her like an equal. They worked side by side when he visited, sharing easy conversation that filled the quiet space between the trees. Laughter came naturally, surprising both of them. Emma noticed how different Jack seemed when he talked about the land. His voice softened, his eyes grew distant, as if the ranch carried memories too heavy to speak aloud. She didn't push him. She understood silence and respected it. In return, she shared small pieces of her own past, how the city had felt crowded yet lonely, how she had dreamed of a place where she could hear her own thoughts again. One evening, dark clouds rolled in without warning. The wind shifted fast, bending the trees and pulling cold air down from the mountains. Emma was inside the cabin, adjusting a temporary tarp on the roof, when the rain started to fall hard. Within minutes, water leaked through the gaps in the logs. The unfinished cabin offered little protection. Thunder cracked overhead, and fear tightened in her chest. She had chosen independence, but storms cared little about pride. Jack saw the storm from the ranch and knew immediately where Emma was. Without hesitation, he rode toward the forest, rain soaking through his coat. When he reached the cabin and saw the conditions, he didn't argue. He simply told her she needed shelter. Emma resisted at first, but another loud thunderclap changed her mind. At Jack's ranch house, warmth wrapped around her the moment she stepped inside. A fire burned steadily in the fireplace, filling the room with light and comfort. Emma sat close to the hearth, drying her hair, while Jack brought her a towel and a warm drink. As the storm raged outside, the house felt like a safe island. Emma's eyes drifted to the mantel, where framed photographs stood. A woman with a gentle smile. A young boy standing beside Jack, proud and happy. Emma looked away quickly, unsure if she had crossed a boundary. Jack noticed and finally spoke, his voice low. He told her about his wife and son, about love and loss, and how the ranch had felt empty ever since. Emma listened without interruption. When Jack finished, she reached out and gently placed her hand over his. In that quiet moment, as rain battered the windows, two wounded hearts found understanding without needing any more words. The storm passed by morning, leaving the land washed clean and shining under a pale blue sky. Sunlight filtered through the trees, touching the wet grass and the darkened logs of Emma's cabin. Jack rode with her back to the forest, both of them quieter than usual, carrying the weight of the night they had shared. Nothing had been promised, yet something unspoken now existed between them, gentle, fragile, and real. Over the following weeks, Jack helped Emma whenever she asked, and sometimes even when she didn't. Together, they secured the roof, sealed the walls, and set the small stone chimney in place. Emma learned quickly, her confidence growing with every task. Jack admired not only her determination, but her kindness, the way she thanked him, the way she listened, the way she respected his past without trying to change it. With Emma nearby, the ranch felt less like a place of memories and more like a place of possibility. The day the cabin was finished arrived quietly. Emma stood on the porch, running her hand over the smooth wooden railing. The structure was small, simple, and imperfect, but it was hers. She felt proud, yet strangely emotional. Jack watched her from a few steps away, sensing the mix of triumph and uncertainty in her expression. He realized he didn't want this moment to mark an ending. He wanted it to be a beginning. That evening, Emma surprised Jack by arriving at the ranch with a basket of food she had prepared on her small stove. She said it felt wrong to celebrate alone. They shared dinner at the wooden table, talking and laughing like old friends. As the sun set beyond the hills, Emma grew thoughtful. She admitted that while the cabin was finished, it didn't yet feel like a home. Jack understood exactly what she meant. He told her that a house, no matter how strong, meant nothing without people inside it. With quiet honesty, Jack confessed that he had spent years avoiding connection because he feared losing it again. But Emma had reminded him that love, even when it ends in pain, is still worth choosing. His voice shook as he spoke, but his eyes were steady. Emma reached for his hand, feeling the truth in his words. She shared her own fear, that independence had kept her safe, but also alone. Standing there, under the white American sky, they made a simple decision. No grand promises, no rush, just a choice to move forward together. That night, the ranch lights glowed warmly against the dark fields. The cabin stood strong at the forest's edge, no longer a symbol of solitude, but of courage and hope. Two lives, once shaped by loss, had found comfort in each other. And in that quiet Montana landscape, a family was not replaced, but gently, bravely begun again.